next hour, prepare yourself to take the ultimate trip, a journey into the warped and twisted landscape that is beyond bizarre. Dine on very unusual culinary delights. Sightsee at the Macabre Museum of Death and visit the mysterious Stonehenge of North America. View the world's most unusual houses and hold on tight while we witness ancient and modern brain surgery. Hello, I'm Jay Robinson, your humble tour guide for this next sojourn into the realm of the bizarre. Your itinerary is, shall we say, not for the average tourist, but rather for a select few whose wanderlust spirit leads them to seek out the more mysterious and unusual locales. In truth, few travelers will ever go on our camera's journey. So strap yourself in for the ride of a lifetime as we take you over the edge and beyond bizarre. Humans are living machines, fueled by a variety of unique appetites. We may hunger for sensuality, or lust for friendship, or even yearn for great art. But it is food that is humanity's most necessary appetite. We require it to survive. Without it, we die. But most of us, I'm afraid, don't understand food beyond our own dining tables. The strange foods of other cultures are really quite fascinating. Explore with me now the culinary delights of other cultures that I'm afraid you may find hard to swallow. Some of the most bizarre things we Homo sapiens become intimate with are actually things we willingly put into our mouths. Every culture has its own favorite version of mom's home cooking. Delicious fast food hamburgers that tickle our taste buds would actually disgust a diner from another country. Historically, many of the world's societies were quite similar. It was only their exotic menus that were different. The remote village of Tomohon in northeastern Sulawesi hosts an especially bizarre weekly market. It's stocked with many traditional foods. Farmers, villagers, and even some curious tourists come to buy other exotic items, each prepared only for the beyond bizarre gourmet. Home overrun by rats? No problem. Just get your frying pan out and fry the little critters for supper. Like these vendors whose stacks of fried forest rats sell out quickly. For centuries, these small rodents were coveted by both islanders and sailors for their nutritional value and their tender, succulent, and delicately flavored meat. One of the most popular island foods is wild boar, with their sharp tusks and capturing one a dangerous way to earn one's dinner, no matter how tasty. Or how about a roast dog? Although no Westerner would ever saute man's best friend or a doggy dinner, the cultures are equally disgusted when we cook hamburger. To them, you see, the cow is sacred. In Bangkok, Thailand, the huge crowds of people are as thick as a swarm of insects, which on some Bangkok city streets make people quite hungry. The foods these street vendors are serving almost always look better to us on the serious side of a fly swatter. When one spends one's life eating these crawling, squirming, and frying insects, it simply becomes natural. Frankly, many bugs are regarded by biologists as nutritious, low-fat, and protein-packed tasty foods. These larvae, for example, are said to have a nutty flavor. The flying water beetle is a Bangkok bug eater's delight. You will, of course, want the recipe. Fry lightly in a traditional wok, then gently peel it to find its delicious eggs. These treats are not only highly prized for their flavor, but are believed to bring one good luck. The seasoned world traveler always expects the unexpected. So whether it's locusts, beetles, grubs, or any number of other flavorful insects, a world-wise galloping gourmet is rarely surprised to find such exotic delicacies on the evening's Blue Plate special. However, one might be surprised to find such similar items on menus closer to home. In downtown Mexico City, there is a popular restaurant that specializes in pre-Hispanic fare. Visited by locals and savvy tourists alike, Restaurant Chon has been serving its specialized foods since 1955. Of course, this Mexican eatery served on the traditional Mexican fare, but Restaurant Chon also serves an amazing and slightly bizarre menu of ancient Mayan delights. The adventurous chef responsible for keeping this nearly forgotten cooking alive is Fortino Rojas. Fortino enjoys both his cooking and his eating, but most of all, he enjoys introducing his bizarre treats to an often shocked assortment of hungry patrons, each as adventurous as he.
All of the social classes honor us, and my motto is that everything that runs, flies, or swims goes into the pot.
Whether the diner is nibbling on a whole sautéed frog or biting into a tender cactus worm, Fortino's diners are always a fully satiated bunch. Yet, despite Fortino's ample menu of 1,000-year-old Mayan dishes, he's created a signature dish that's become a restaurant favorite. He simply calls it escamole and chrysanthemum. Though it's hardly simple. First, one selects a large chrysanthemum, then prepares a sauté of herbs, onions, and spices. Next, one adds the escamole, which incidentally are ant eggs, often referred to as Mexican caviar. One then cooks it over a griddle, later adding a sauce of heavy cream. Finally, one adorns the dish with a single beautiful chrysanthemum.
Our clients come here to taste a different type of food, more nutritious, more our own. But when they taste our food, they're entering different cultures, different worlds.
Tiny mosquito eggs and their larvae are also served along with many other specialties, including leg of lion, armadillo, brains, iguana, and crocodile. The only danger associated with eating this food is that on occasion, the food can bite back. When asked why his menu is so bizarre, Latino simply replies,
I'm just as crazy as those who come here to eat.
no one really knows what awaits us after death. However, we do know something about the process of death. Macabre stories of killers and victims, this bloody history in America. This bizarre information can be found in two of the most fascinating and ghoulish museums ever constructed. Join me now, please, as we visit these strange museums, if you can stand it. The Museum of Death is one of the most popular tourist attractions in San Diego, California. Owned and operated by Kathy Schultz and associate James Healy, the present-day Museum of Death grew out of an earlier and very bizarre concept.
We established the museum in 1995, and we established it, well, it actually evolved out of a lot of things. We had a gallery. We showed artwork by serial killers every year in the exhibits. And it was the most popular exhibit, and we actually made money during those shows by admissions. We also moved into this building because it was a mortuary, and we knew we had to use those two together, and it evolved into the Museum of Death.
The Museum of Death's exhibit about execution includes an operational guillotine, a pendulum, and an electric chair. A popular exhibit is clothing worn by a man executed in the electric chair, showing purge marks where blood and body fluids were forced through the skin and body openings. The Museum of Death also offers exhibits from all over the world, including this highly decorated cannibal skull. The skull is just part of the museum's bone collection. The museum's mascot is an actual stuffed dog. Perhaps the museum's most interesting and bizarre exhibits are the raw and uncensored police and coroner photographs. These often horrifying pictures include famous murder stories like the Black Dahlia case of Elizabeth Short. They also include stomach-churning pictures of auto accidents, terrifying animal encounters, tragic combat deaths, and airline flights that turned into fiery disasters. Although its visitors come from around the world, they each share one similar thought. They're all dying to know about death.
We get all kinds of people at the museum. You would think that they would all be really strange and just fascinated by death, but it's such a common thread. We're all born and we all die, so people just want to know who could think of the Museum of Death. So it really is a cross-section of all people. We have young children all the way to senior citizens.
Some visitors have quite an unusual reaction.
The most bizarre response I've ever seen or heard here at the Museum of Death was last week when a young man came running up the stairs with his hand over his mouth. I think he was vomiting, but I wasn't sure, so what I did was go downstairs to see what might have caused him to go off. And when I got down there, the smell at that time was very overpowering. This building, since it was built so long ago, has a way of retaining all the old smells of the old mortuary. And what happens is during the day, as it heats up, the smell becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. So I think when he went downstairs and saw this sight of very disturbing graphic scene going on, and the smell hit him at the same time, that's what caused him to go off.
The museum's current display of all-star serial killer artists include Richard Ramirez, also known as the Night Stalker. His current work being shown includes this pen and ink drawing of a demon goat. When held to the light allows one to see the watermark of Satan on the goat's forehead. The picture you're viewing now is Jeffrey Dahmer's refrigerator, drawn by Jeffrey Dahmer. Lawrence Bittinger has been on California's death row for 14 years. His pop-up greeting cards show he hasn't lost his sense of humor. and a signed artistic cross reveals a serious side, with SQDR, meaning San Quentin Death Row. John Wayne Gacy wasn't clowning around when he murdered 33 young men and buried them under and around his home. But he too was an artist who specialized in drawing clowns. Some like this are self-portraits, as Gacy was indeed a clown at children's birthday parties. And what art gallery of an all-star serial killer lineup would be complete without the MVP of murderous modern art, Charlie Manson himself? How does this bizarre museum affect its visitors?
A day above the ground is a good day, and I really believe that when you face fear and you can go on the next day and wake up feeling fresh, that you're going to have a great life ahead of you. I don't think that people should dwell on the fact that one day they're going to die, because it's just like lunch, it's coming.
Once death has occurred, it is followed by burial or interment. In Houston, Texas, there is a National Museum of Funerary History. It was founded by a funeral director who felt that a lot of the history of funeral rituals was disappearing. So with the help of funeral directors and suppliers throughout the country, this bizarre museum was founded in 1992 and has been able to accumulate the nation's largest funeral memorabilia collection. In charge of the museum is President Bob Bettiker.
Well, our museum is very unique. We house one of the world's largest funeral memorabilia collection. We have 31 funeral vehicles, many of them hand-carved out of wood. You'll never, ever see them again.
This one-of-a-kind 1916 Packard bus could accommodate not only the coffin, but the mourners and pallbearers as well. A 1921 Rockville hearse is hand-carved from solid maple and features many luxurious accessories. This 1916 Buick features funeral draperies which have been carved from solid oak. The unusual 1972 Pagoda hearse was imported from Japan and features solid brass carvings. This fully restored horse-drawn hearse is believed to be one of the oldest in the United States. The number of plumes adorning the hearse denoted the deceased occupant's status in life. This unusual 5/8 scale hearse is a particularly melancholic example of the funeral industry's necessary creativity. It was built exclusively to carry children. Because of its small stature, the strange contrivance was pulled by 2 men rather than by horses. The funeral museum also features several unusual and one-of-a-kind coffins.
In 1930, a man and his wife had a small child who was dying of a terminal disease. So the father said that when his son passed away, he and his wife would commit suicide, and they wanted to be buried with their son. So the father had this casket built for 3 people. And if you notice on the inside, there are 2 large pillows, one to each side, and a smaller pillow in the middle. When the boy did pass away, the parents did not go through with what they had said, and the casket has been sitting in the basement of a funeral home since the 1930s.
The Museum of Death and the National Museum of Funerary History are each like a looking glass, where we can experience for a moment or two the reality of the other side, remembering, of course, the other side is strictly for visiting, until for each of us a soft voice lets us know that visiting hours are over and it is time now for a permanent stay. Of all the great unexplained mysteries in our beautifully bizarre world, there is none so magnificent or so divinely spiritual as the strange formation known as Stonehenge. To this day, there is no explanation as to who built it or why. But there is another Stonehenge, an American Stonehenge, whose mysteries are equally bizarre, and may, as you'll soon see, be even beyond bizarre. America's Stonehenge sits on a hilltop in southern New Hampshire, surrounded, some say, by an aura of ancient magic that sometimes pulsates as though there is a heart beating inside it. Yet, on first glance, one sees only stone walls, various chambers, and standing stone monuments, hewn out of solid rock almost 4,000 years ago. But why, one asks, was it built, and by whom? Were these fabulous architects the indigenous people of North America? Or could they have been the very same stone sorcerers who, by using giant stones, also built England's Stonehenge? Meet Robert Stone, the owner, manager, and researcher of America's Stonehenge.
I think the builders came from Europe. They were stone masons. They knew how to erect stone. In this section of the United States, I don't know of any Indian tribes that built out of stone. There's other sections of the country they did. They found the hilltop that they wanted, and they were very, very crafted in stone, and they also were involved with astronomy.
There appears to be plenty of substance behind Mr. Stone's theories about the builders' cosmic interests. Not far from the main site are several stones, some as high as 7 feet. Some people believe they are astronomical markers, signifying the spring and fall equinoxes, and that this stone marks the summer solstice. And on that first summer day, if one watches the sunrise from the astronomical center circle, the sun actually aligns with a distant mountain peak, similar to sites found in Europe. Researchers have also uncovered rock slabs with carved inscriptions, believed to have been etched by Celtic, Iberian, and Phoenician artisans. Several of the bizarre inscriptions resemble Ogam, a script dating from the 5th to the 7th centuries in Ireland and Britain. Apparently, the strange magicians who created these fascinating mysteries believed that New England was the perfect place for their divinely mysterious efforts. Throughout New England, there are nearly 350 similar megalithic rock structures. And in a bizarre twist, this V-hut structure faces southwest, the only one different from the others, oddly similar to Ireland's 5,000-year-old wedge tombs. Perhaps our story's greatest mystery comes from the voice of God himself. In the secret darkness of an underground tunnel sits the sacred oracle chamber. A priest could hide in the oracle chamber and, using the speaking tube, act as the voice of God, speaking to the ancient believers outside.
We're inside the oracle chamber, and inside this chamber there's a large tube that leads out through 5 feet of wall, and that comes out underneath the sacrificial table. If you speak through this, it sounds, if you're on the ramp opposite the table, it sounds like the table is actually talking to you.
Imagine what it would have been like to hear the voice of God speaking from the table. It is believed that this same table was used for blood sacrifice.
What did they sacrifice? We don't know. It's big enough for a human being. But if it was animal, and it could have been, we're not sure. But over in back of me, there's this little chambers like, and we often thought that maybe that area they had as holding pens for animals. They bring the animal out and put them on here and tie them down or whatever, and there's your sacrifice.
The wondrous mysteries of the oracle chambers grow more extraordinary as one looks deeper into its ancient secrets. For example, just below the speaking tube is a secret chamber where it's believed a person could crawl into and through a small opening near the floor, observe whatever activity was taking place. And there's the roof and its mysterious opening. At one time it was covered with 2 stone louvers that could open and close, and a larger stone cover closed the opening more securely. What was it used for? Perhaps it was a skylight that the ancients used to search the heavens. The largest boulder on the site is found in the somewhat bizarre L-shaped passage. Somehow this 45-ton giant rock was moved several feet by the ancient builders. How could they have possibly accomplished such a feat? Without question, this area was a place of importance, but we'll never know what for. And its ancient rituals or uses will forever remain a lost and intriguing mystery. Still, the world's foremost professionals study these stone structures. Is it truly American, or is it European? Very few Indian artifacts have ever been discovered here. Yet the disagreement continues. A Native American genius or a European genius? There is some evidence which supports both sides of the argument. But no one truly knows who built these strange structures. The answers, I'm afraid, lay somewhere in the ancient cosmos. It has been said that a man's home is his castle. Soon we will meet a man that took this sentiment to heart and who built his own castle, stone by stone. But first we will investigate two other bizarre places of residence. One built of junk and another made entirely of newspaper. In all cases, the buildings, and more importantly, the builders themselves, could be considered beyond bizarre. Most of us are accustomed to the usual variety of traditional homes, made of wood, stone, and glass, and built by skilled carpenters, plumbers, and masons. But the homes we are about to see are quite different, built of unusual materials, and created by men driven with strange obsessions. This interterrestrial craft is called an Earthship. It is actually a bizarre home design that uses disposable materials. Tires are stacked to form a wall that becomes solid and self-supporting. This tire-earth combination provides excellent insulation and recycles a product that is difficult to dispose of. There is even a purpose for empty cans. Interior walls are actually built with empty cans that have been joined with mud. Finally, the walls are covered with mud, sand, and straw, or adobe. And what we have might be bizarre to some of us. The magnificent result of all this muck and junk is a spectacular creation that, once completed, will be a home that uses solar energy and is very cheap to maintain. Combining the new, the old, the discarded, the ancient, the result is simple, yet slightly bizarre. The community of Pigeon Cove, Massachusetts, looks anything but unusual. Yet there was once a character here whose highly unusual hobby made this hamlet one of the spots on our beyond bizarre roadmap of the world. Ellis Stedman was designing paper clips when he first became interested in a new form of wordsmithing. Their grandniece, Edna Baudouin, explains what this obsession was that drove her Uncle Ellis so compulsively.
Well, basically, he was curious. He wanted to see what he could do with the newspaper, and he wanted to experiment with it as an insulating material.
Whatever demons or angels drove him, no one knows. The interior walls are 215 sheets thick, about half an inch, and the exterior walls are varnished every fall. Who would have thought of putting a fireplace inside a paper house? Mr. Stedman found paper to be a building material for almost anything. The grandfather clock is made up of rolled newspapers from each of the 48 states. This desk was made of papers featuring the cross-Atlantic flight of Charles Lindbergh. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, how much is this house of words really worth? The furnishings also include a piano and ornately folded paper curtains.
People from all over come here. Rockport's a busy tourist town, so you get a lot of foreign visitors and families and basically people who are out to see something odd and unusual.
Mr. Stedman could never have imagined how long-lasting his strange experiment would be. Is it a monument to future users of newsprint, or maybe a first edition of our homes of the future? And then there is a mountain outside of Pueblo, Colorado, where stands a castle that is being built single-handedly by a man with a vision. If a man's home is his castle, then what sort of man would build himself a castle all alone and not live in it? Meet Jim Bishop, a man who has spent the last 28 years building a castle totally by himself. His wife Phoebe takes care of permits and legal issues, as well as lends her support. When Jim was young, he nearly died of a childhood illness. He is now, he says, a rugged individualist, proud of the fact that he has built this castle on his own, with little more than an idea and his own two hands.
I just wanted to be in the mountains. When I was a young man in Pueblo, I wanted to come to these blue mountains that I seen off in the distance. So I got up in here with riding bicycles up to the mountains and camping at Lake Isabel. This piece of property come up for sale. 38 years ago, I made a down payment. I was 15 years old, a minor child. It was in my folks' name. Start digging a road in here, wheelbarrow and shovel, and all I wanted was a place in the mountains. Then I started building the rock cottage. Started out as a stone cottage. People, just locals, farmers, ranchers, fishermen, no tourists at the time, they start commenting on how much the rockwork looked like a castle.
Jim may have a bizarre hobby with his castle, but he is, as he proclaims, totally independent. He has built the castle entirely with his own funds and from visitor donations. The castle is, in fact, debt-free. All extra donations go to the Bishop Castle Foundation for newborn heart surgery. What do these visitors, who are no doubt overwhelmed, think about this man and what he is doing?
To build something like this, all by hand, mostly by himself, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all by himself.
It's incredible.
It's hard to imagine that one man could imagine this dream and then make it come true.
How on earth can just one man build an entire castle? It looks incredibly difficult, but its beautiful artistry is its simplicity. Climbing the scaffolding that he has built to the precise position of his current project, he unloads the rock and then mortars it into place. In this era of technology and complex machinery, it only takes a few casual moments to see the artist in Jim Bishop.
The castle is a conglomeration of Colorado granite put together with concrete, flying buttresses, arches, towers, chimney towers, staircase towers, wrought iron roof trusses, wrought iron window frames. As far as architectural plans, it's what I got envisioned in my mind. There's nothing on paper, no mechanical drawings, no blueprints. Trial and error, experience, it just comes to me and it's meant to be.
Watch him at work, and one can finally understand that it's the simple, uncomplicated things that are truly extraordinary. As we watch over this fantastic project, we can see the eccentric master at work, and near to him, the enduring icon of this monumental structure, the dragon.
It's a thought that I had to create a chimney and a gargoyle and something that the news media would pay attention to, and it worked. It's made out of discarded stainless steel hospital trays. There's 4,200 pop rivets holding it together. The lower jaw is 7 foot long and hinges. It breathes fire, propane fire out the mouth. The 2 nostrils is a chimney. And I got the start, the idea, the inspiration for the castle from the general public. Now it's inspirational to everybody else. It shows what a poor person could do in a free country if you work and fight for what you're doing.
You can create art around whosever idea of bizarre there is. Yeah, it's bizarre because you're not going to see it anywhere else. That makes it bizarre.
Most of us have heard the saying, I need that like I need another hole in the head. But in fact, there are some people that believe they need more than the 7 holes normally found in every human skull. These same people profess an additional hole can increase awareness, perhaps open up a new window into the human mind. This story includes bizarre, graphic scenes of an actual modern self-trepanation, and I must strongly urge you, the viewer, to never consider attempting this surgery by your own hand.
Trepanation is skull surgery. It's the opening and generally removing parts of the skull bone.
Bizarre as it may seem, it was in fact the first type of surgery ever attempted. Most patients in modern hospitals enjoy the benefits of the latest medical advances. Trepanning or trepanation is a term used by doctors whenever and for whatever reason a hole is made into the skull. Using the latest computer-assisted technology, skilled surgeons are able to pinpoint the exact area involved in the operation, and they can literally map out the entire procedure. Advances in medical equipment like auto-cauterizing scalpels and self-cooling high-speed drills also give surgeons the added benefit of highly sophisticated equipment to aid them in their task. Sterile techniques are strictly adhered to by the entire medical team. But imagine, if you will, what it would have been like thousands of years ago, trying to perform the delicate task of opening someone's head without any of our modern advances or sterile protections. Up to 4,000 years ago in Egypt, ancient practitioners were surprisingly well-versed in trepanning and its mysterious benefits.
The ancient Egyptians describe the procedure in very great detail. There are medical papyri that date to the 17th, 18th dynasties.
The Egyptians were not alone in their mastery of these techniques. Half a world away and almost 2,000 years later, New World cultures, including the Incas of Peru, were also trepanning.
By the time you get to the Inca Empire in the 15th and 16th century AD, you have survival rates of 75%, which is much better than Western medicine did until antiseptic techniques were popularized in the latter part of the last century.
Some cultures have continued a primitive form of trepanning, and this extremely rare footage, shot 30 years ago in Africa, proves that in remote areas, this bizarre primitive surgery has barely changed within the last few thousand years. After purification rites the night before, the doctor traveled to a village where his unusual specialty was needed.
In many areas, trepanation seemed to have been done for very rational reasons, to correct a depressed skull fracture, to correct the effects of a concussion or a fall. Some of the trepanations are very large, 3-4 inches in diameter, so exposing a very large part of the skull. And yet they healed, and they healed to an amazing degree.
Sometimes trepanations were performed for more esoteric reasons, to let out the evil demons. In some cultures, priests underwent trepanation to let the light of consciousness in. This patient was operated upon without anesthesia or sterile techniques. After completion of the surgery, the wounds were not stitched, but merely bound with plant fibers. Not all patients survived this operation, however, as evidenced by the lack of healing in this ancient skull. But some primitive surgeons enjoyed many successes, and this doctor's talents were widely respected and sought after, and his many living patients attest to his experience and his ability. Ancient surgical practices still taking place in remote parts of Africa may surprise us. But even more surprising is the strange and bizarre story of Amanda Fielding. Amanda looks every bit the typical proper English lady, but there is little about her that is typical. You see, Amanda is one of a handful of people who have actually trepaned themselves. In Hindu philosophy, the god Shiva is often depicted with a third mystic eye on his forehead, representing an expanded consciousness. Amanda believes her own subtle increase in consciousness is a result of her self-trepanation.
The basis of expanded consciousness is getting more blood in the brain. I consider trepanation a measure for health and happiness, and therefore it should be available to anyone who wants to know about it.
This experience had such an effect on her life and mental state that she decided to share her rediscovery of this ancient surgical technique by running for the British Parliament on the platform of Trepanation for the National Health. Self-trepanation is at the least extremely dangerous. It could easily be fatal.
Although I trepan myself, I'm against self-trepanation because obviously it's potentially a lot more dangerous than having it done by a doctor.
Amanda feels strongly about that now by watching the film she took of the procedure in 1970.
I decided to make a movie of it. So the day before I bought a Super 8 camera and set it up so one got a reflected image in the mirror.
This is me looking rather anxious. It's the morning of the operation. This is the electric drill with the flexible drive. It hung in order to make it lighter and therefore easier to handle. Here's the flex going to the foot pedal, which gave a very delicate control.
To sharpen her skills, Amanda practiced drilling on an acquired human skull.
During the trepanation, there was no pain. The local anesthetic thought of that. And after, there's no pain because I think there's very few nerves in that part of the body. So it was a completely painless experience.
With the opening of the skull, an increase in brain blood volume occurs, and a few people believe that this restoration of the pulse of blood to the brain may lead to an expanded awareness and heightened consciousness. However, this phenomenon is not well understood by medical science.
The effects of trepanation are very difficult to define. It's a subtle change, a certain kind of quietness in the head, a relaxation.
The entire procedure lasted nearly 3 hours. The actual drilling took 30 minutes, during which she lost about a pint of blood. Perhaps the most bizarre aspect of Amanda's home movie is her calm demeanor following the trepanation.
Having cleaned up and had a bath, we went out and had a steak for supper to make up for the lost blood, and then went to a party we'd been asked to.
Amanda lost her bid for Parliament, but she still supports others who seek acceptance from the medical community in conducting trepanations for non-medical reasons. Amanda still feels that in her own life, trepanation has made a subtle but surprising difference. Again, we strongly agree with Amanda's conclusion that self-trepanation is an extremely dangerous and very likely lethal thing to do to oneself. So much so that we must label it as even beyond bizarre. We live in a world where primitive knowledge and unusual behaviors are able to meet halfway the rapidly changing technology of our modern age. There are a myriad of mystical and mysterious elements to any story featuring the bizarre. The places we have visited are not clearly marked on any known map of the world. Rather, they must be sought out using acute senses able to plumb the depths of imagination. I'm Jay Robinson, and I hope you've enjoyed our little journey into the realm of the unusual. Join me next time, and I promise you that we'll travel again to seek the bizarre and beyond.